The morning had started like many others for Jack Miller. Before the sun had fully risen, he unlocked the doors of his small auto repair shop on the edge of town. It wasn't a fancy place. The paint on the walls had faded over the years, and the concrete floor carried the marks of countless repairs. Yet everything was clean, organized, and well cared for. Jack believed that if someone trusted him with their vehicle, they deserved honesty and hard work in return. Life had changed dramatically for Jack after his wife passed away from a sudden illness 6 years earlier. Left to raise his young son, Noah, on his own, he learned to balance long workdays with homework, dinner, and bedtime stories. Money was often tight, but Jack refused to complain. He wanted Noah to grow up believing that a person's character mattered far more than the size of their bank account. Late that afternoon, the quiet routine of the garage was interrupted when a gleaming black luxury SUV rolled into the parking lot. The expensive vehicle looked strangely out of place beside the older cars waiting for repairs. A well-dressed couple stepped out first, followed by their 12-year-old daughter, Emma. Emma moved carefully, supported by heavy metal braces wrapped around both legs. Each step was slow and deliberate, and although she tried to hide it, the effort showed on her face. Her mother, Sophia, instinctively reached out to steady her, while her father, billionaire businessman Daniel Carter, watched with quiet concern. Jack greeted them with a friendly smile and immediately began inspecting the SUV. The engine problem wasn't serious, but it would take some time to fix. Daniel thanked him and asked how long the repair would take. "About an hour," Jack replied. "You're welcome to wait inside if you'd like." As Daniel completed a phone call, Jack noticed Emma watching a group of neighborhood children laughing and chasing each other in a nearby park. She didn't say a word, but the sadness in her eyes spoke louder than any conversation could. Jack understood that look. He had seen it before in people carrying burdens no one else could see. Without asking personal questions or offering empty sympathy, he simply walked over and placed a chair in the shade beside her. "You'll be more comfortable here," he said with a gentle smile. Emma smiled back for the first time that day, unaware that this simple meeting was about to change both of their lives forever. As Jack continued working on the SUV, he couldn't help noticing Emma sitting quietly in the shade. Unlike most children her age, she wasn't distracted by a phone or a game. She simply watched the world around her with a thoughtful expression. Every now and then, her eyes drifted toward the nearby park, where children ran across the grass, laughing without a care. Jack finished replacing the damaged part in the engine and wiped the grease from his hands before walking over to return the car keys. "The vehicle is ready," he said with a smile. Daniel thanked him and reached for his wallet, but before the family left, Jack hesitated for a moment. "I hope you don't mind me asking," he said respectfully. "Has Emma always used those braces?" Sophia exchanged a quick glance with her husband before answering. "No. She was injured in a car accident several years ago. She's had multiple surgeries and years of therapy. These braces help her walk, but they're heavy and uncomfortable." Emma looked down at her legs. "They rub against my skin," she admitted softly. "After a while, they hurt." Jack knelt slightly to examine the braces without touching them. "I've repaired equipment like this before," he said. "Not medical devices exactly, but support braces for athletes recovering from serious injuries. Sometimes even a small adjustment can make a big difference." Daniel appreciated the kindness but smiled politely. "We've worked with specialists from around the world. They've done everything they can." "I'm sure they have," Jack replied. "I'm not claiming I know more than they do. I just hate seeing a child uncomfortable." His words carried no pride or desire to impress, only genuine concern. That evening, after the Carter family had left, Jack couldn't stop thinking about Emma. The image of her watching other children play stayed in his mind. At home, he pulled out old notebooks filled with sketches from projects he had completed years earlier. Some designs were for lightweight support frames that reduced pressure on injured joints. His son Noah noticed the papers spread across the kitchen table. "What are you working on?" he asked. Jack smiled. Just trying to solve a problem for someone who may never even ask for my help." For the next several nights, after long hours at the garage, Jack quietly refined his ideas, driven not by the promise of money or recognition, but by the hope that one small act of kindness might make a young girl's life a little easier. For nearly 2 weeks, Jack worked on the idea whenever the garage closed for the day. He never treated it like a business project. It became something personal. Using leftover materials, lightweight aluminum, soft padding, and adjustable joints, he carefully built a support brace designed to reduce pressure on the knee and ankle while allowing more natural movement. Every piece was tested repeatedly before he was satisfied. Noah watched his father work late into the night. "You've spent so much time on this," he said. "What if they never come back?" Jack smiled without looking up. "Then at least I'll know I tried." A few days later, the Carter family's SUV returned to the garage for a routine service. Jack recognized the vehicle immediately. After finishing the inspection, he approached Daniel with a small bag in his hands. "I'd like to show you something," he said. Daniel looked curious but cautious. "It's not a replacement for medical treatment," Jack explained. "It's simply a lighter support brace I designed. If Emma's doctors think it's safe, she can try it. If not, there's no pressure." Sophia looked surprised. "You made this yourself?" Jack nodded. "I only wanted to make her more comfortable." The sincerity in his voice convinced them to at least take a look. After carefully checking the design and speaking with Emma's physical therapist, they received permission to test it under supervision. Emma sat nervously as Jack adjusted the straps to fit her legs. Unlike her old braces, these felt lighter and allowed her knees to bend more naturally. "Take your time," Jack said gently. "There's no need to rush." Emma slowly stood. For a brief moment, everyone held their breath. She took one careful step, then another. A smile spread across her face. "It doesn't hurt," she whispered, almost unable to believe it. Encouraged, she continued walking across the workshop floor with greater confidence than anyone had seen in years. The movement wasn't perfect, and she still needed support, but every step looked smoother and less painful. Sophia covered her mouth, tears filling her eyes as she watched her daughter smile while walking without the usual strain. Daniel stood silently beside her, overwhelmed with emotion. At that moment, Jack realized that the greatest reward for kindness was not recognition or wealth. It was seeing hope return to a family that had almost forgotten what hope felt like. The following weeks brought changes that no one had expected. Emma continued using Jack's lightweight brace during her therapy sessions, always under the guidance of her medical team. While it wasn't a cure, it reduced the discomfort that had made every exercise feel like a struggle. Because walking became less painful, Emma was able to practice longer and with greater confidence. For the first time in years, she looked forward to therapy instead of dreading it. One Saturday afternoon, the Carter family visited Jack's garage again, not because their SUV needed repairs, but because Emma had insisted on seeing him. As soon as she stepped out of the vehicle, she smiled proudly and walked several yards toward the workshop without asking for anyone's arm. "Look, Mr. Jack," she called happily, "I'm getting better." Jack couldn't hide his smile. "I knew you could do it," he replied. "You did the hard work. I only made something to help." Sophia's eyes filled with tears as she watched her daughter standing taller than she had in years. She walked over to Jack and quietly said, "We've spent fortunes searching for answers. Yet the greatest gift Emma received came from someone who simply cared enough to listen." Daniel shook Jack's hand with sincere gratitude. "I'd like to repay you," he said. "Name any amount." Jack gently shook his head. "If you really want to thank me, help children whose families can't afford proper mobility equipment. There are many kids who need a chance." Daniel remained silent for a moment before nodding. "I promise." Months later, the Carter Foundation announced a new program that provided customized mobility braces and rehabilitation support to children from low-income families. Jack was invited to advise the project, using his practical experience to improve the designs. He accepted, not for fame or recognition, but because he believed every child deserved the opportunity to move with dignity. Emma often visited the workshop after school, bringing homemade cookies and stories about her progress. Noah and Emma became close friends, proving that kindness can create connections between people from completely different worlds. Jack never became wealthy, but he gained something far more valuable: the knowledge that one compassionate decision had changed countless lives. His simple act of generosity reminded everyone that miracles are not always impossible events. Sometimes they begin with an ordinary person who chooses to care when everyone else has given up. Moral: true wealth is measured not by money but by the kindness we share and the hope we give to others.